Hey, so I'm here for one last little project that I'm going to squeeze in before we move house. When I say little, I'm going to be making like a miniature backpack. Basically, it's for my 3-year-old son who has been patiently asking me for a bag for like months. Since I made like a load of little mini bags out of these rag books, he's wanted one out of this cow. And every time when I drop him off at the childminder, he's like, "You make my cow bag today?" I'm like, yeah. Oh. So what I'm actually going to do is use my Sunrise bag pattern, which is normally like a little side bag, but I'm just going to change where the straps come out to make it into a little backpack. I think that'll be a good size. Hi, by the way, if you're new here, I'm Anna, and normally making bags out of like secondhand vintage fabrics, anything that's not new basically. So today I'm using this, obviously a piece from this really cute vintage rag book. Going to use this, which somebody actually donated recently. So that's a nice like bright blue thin cord. That would be nice. That'll be for like the main part of the bag. Got this quite funky fabric, another donation. I think this was maybe an old curtain. That'll be for the lining. I'm yet to decide which one of these, where these came from, like somewhere or other. That'll be for the straps, and I'm really glad that I'm using these for these. I wouldn't normally use these, I don't think, in the bags I make, you know, for adults, because I prefer the cotton. And obviously the colours are a bit, you know, but perfect for this bag, so that is really good. And then I've got all these kind of bits and bobs of old salvaged hardware bits off other bags and what have you. And actually, again, this is the kind of thing I'd never use in one of the other bags I make, but I might actually go for these plastic bits. And then, yeah, a couple of them. What I'm also going to need actually is some interfacing. I'm just kind of going to go through my interfacing scraps because they're all quite small pieces. I would prefer to use this, like something like this, which is more of a medium to heavyweight interfacing. However, I do have like an absolute job lot of this really thin stuff. And to be honest, if it is really thin and I want it a bit thicker, I just double it up and use 2 layers. I iron one on top of the other, so might do that as well. And then for the back piece, usually if I'm making a side bag, I would have a zip in the front and back, which for a backpack is not really necessary. So I'm instead going to use the lining piece for the back. So I'm also going to get a little bit of felt, I think, just to pad the back out. Where this is quite flimsy, I definitely interface the cow, and I might maybe put a bit of felt on the cow as well. Okay. I'm going to cut all of this out, interface it, yada yada. I know I'm going to have an issue because the cow is too narrow for the pattern. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going forwards and deal with that a bit later. So I've got all of my pieces kind of cut out and prepped here. So what I've got is the front bit. Basically, to make it a bit, what I was going to do is just add some fabric onto each side of the cow because it was a little bit narrow, and then just slightly make it a little bit smaller than the pattern and just add the fabric on so that I could sew literally right along the edge without it kind of fraying. And then I was just going to kind of adjust the side bit to fit into that. But I don't know if it's just my brain tricking me because it's a bit easier, but I put these bits on and I thought, do you know what, that looks quite sweet anyway. It's the right size, so I think I'm just gonna have 2 bits down the side. Like, I think that looks all right. And what I've done here, I wanted to give the front and the back a bit of stiffness, so I have used a bit of like Bondina and just stuck a bit of felt to the back of that piece. It's all a bit random. Then here's my top piece for there. With this bit, I've actually just like sewn the felt on right around the edge so it'll be in the seam allowance. And my back piece as well, that's got a piece of felt, and I've just done some kind of that kind of shape to hold that to that. So that's them. And then I've just got all my pieces for my side, so that'll just hold the front and back together. Lining pieces for that. Lining for these 2 pieces. That will be the back of that pocket. That's all for the front pocket. and then just 2 lining pieces for the inside as well. There is like the pattern piece for this, which is kind of a pocket. That's my iron, sorry, which would go on one of the inside lining pieces, but I just think he's 3, do you know what I mean? Can't really see that being used. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my side pieces and my 2 front pieces and put all the zips in now. So found this zip that I'm going to use for this. It's a bit of a random colour, but I just liked that it had a big old like grabbable puller and it seems sturdy as well. Put the zip on, it's just kind of a case of having it face down against the top fabric and then sandwiching that in between your lining and top fabric. And then once you've sandwiched them, just kind of peel away the top fabric bit, so you've still got all the seam allowances underneath that side as well, and then run a line of top stitching down the side like that, and then it just means that when you come to peel the lining back, there's not any stitch lines visible there, it's just quite clean. And then it's the same thing really when you come to putting the side bottom onto the side top, so you're just sandwiching this in between the lining and the top fabric, and then again pulling this top fabric side over and top stitching. Normally I'd be adding these straps coming out of this bit and the D-rings, but I'm going to do it like this for the backpack, so it's just one continuous loop. So I've got that little bit now, that's for my side, that's all done. And then I've just put the zip in my 2 front pieces in the exact same way that I put the side zip in. And so what I can do now with this is just pull these linings kind of away and give it a bit of an iron and cut away my excess zip. Make sure the zip's inside, sometimes I accidentally cut it off. This zip is got a slightly smaller zipper, so might have to put something on it, but I think it's going to be a good excuse when we move. Basically we're moving to Hastings, which is like seaside. So head on down to the old arcades, win a few keyrings on the old 2p machines. Right, so what I can do now is get my 2 pieces basically of lining fabric and put them kind of back to back, wrong sides together, and then lay that directly on top of there. And that means that when you go into that pocket, there's the lining for that one, and then that will be on the inside of the bag. And I'm just going to sew all the way around the outside with these just to hold them together. Yeah, I'm very excited to be moving next to the seaside. And let me tell you this as well, which I think is like quite weird, but not weird, but basically on Instagram, you know, sometimes like they have kind of trending reels where everyone seems to be doing the same thing, if you know what I mean. I don't normally do them because they just don't fit with what I do, but there's one time where there was one where it's just kind of like you doing something in the background and then with little facts and stuff or little bits of info about what you do, who you are, that kind of thing. And I thought, oh, that's quite a good idea actually to kind of say what I do. Of it like whatever, I'm Anna, yada yada, I make bags. This is when I was still working, so I was like, I'm currently working as a costume maker, but hoping to make the bag thing full time, like my proper job. And then another thing I put, currently living in London, but I'd love to live next to the sea. This was like a couple of years ago. You know, as I wrote it, to be honest, I didn't think that was ever going to happen, you know, because of jobs and what have you, but both of those things are now true. Is that not a bit like, so yeah. I don't know what I'm saying here basically, but maybe write down what you want, post it on the internet, and who knows. Thinking I might just be boring and go for the blue, you know. Right, not altogether sure how I'm going to go about doing the straps and how long they need to be, but I'm going to want a little kind of hanging bit for the middle, so I'm going to iron a bit like that. It's plastic, so I'm just going to iron it between some scrap fabric and hope it doesn't melt. Okay, so that bit's for there. How does this work? So I think, would you have like the top piece going through there and then that just is at a certain length and then bottom piece would go through there? Seems Definitely seems like I've got it wrong, but okay. I don't know how long to really do this bit. I'm trying to imagine his little shoulders. But actually, before I attach them on, I'm also going to have to make some kind of contraption that goes across there. I might make these a bit longer actually, and then just use these bits as the bit that comes out of the bottom and goes back into the top of that. Yeah, so they're just going just over the end. Okay, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing here really, or if this is what it's meant to be, but this bit I guess is going to go on here. So I've just done one of those, like, thought I was filming for ages and wasn't. So I've done all of this, and basically what I've done is just pinned the front and the back all the way around the sides. I'll show you what I've done with the straps in a minute. I'm not entirely sure if I've done that right. Seems like it might be wrong, but anyway, so now I'm going to sew that all the way around there, that all the way around there, and then literally have a look for some binding to put around the edges, and then that's that done, which is quite good really. I've been like procrastinating all morning. Okay, so that's that all bound off. That's finished now, so it's quite funky from the inside, isn't it? So gander. Oh, how cute is that? I hope he's going to be happy. So this is like how the back is. To be honest, I'm thinking I've probably threaded these up wrong because they don't like that. They keep kind of coming. I might try to sort that out and on. This bit, so this bit kind of goes across the chest. Just because they used to have this little like giraffe bag and it had this bit on it, that's why I've put that on. I guess it just stops the straps falling down. But you see what I mean? These bits kind of keep doing that, so I'm guessing they're wrong. On the whole, a little mini success for sure. I hope he's going to be happy with it. I'm going to try and get some footage of him wearing it later. Fingers crossed. So here it is. I actually filmed this on the day we moved to Hastings. This was just before the vans came with all of our stuff. So very much the calm before the storm. And it's been actually just over a month since then. And we now already have another little boy who's a month old already. Can't believe it. So that's hence the radio silence. I hope you're all having a fab summer wherever you are, and hopefully see you soon for some more sewing.